Death Valley Chronicles podcast, California's first Iceman. I am your host, William Parson. Welcome back to the Death Valley Chronicles, where we explore the intriguing and often untold stories of the Old West. Today, we journey into a time before the convenience of refrigeration, to a time when ice was a luxury item, and one man's vision brought this precious commodity to the hot and arid lands of California. This is the story of James Iceman Carr, California's first Iceman. Imagine a world where there are no refrigerators, no freezers, and no air conditioning. The summer heat is relentless, and the simple pleasure of a cold drink is out of reach for most. This was life in the mid-19th century, particularly in the sweltering climate of California during the gold rush. In the 1840s and 1850s, as people flocked to California in search of gold, they quickly discovered that the region's climate posed unique challenges. The intense heat, especially in areas like Death Valley, made daily life difficult. Food spoiled quickly, and there was little relief from the sun's oppressive rays. Enter James Carr, a visionary who saw an opportunity where others saw only hardship. Carr was a man of ingenuity, and he understood that if he could find a way to bring ice to California, he could make a fortune. At the time, ice was harvested naturally in colder regions and stored in ice houses, but bringing it to California was a daunting task. In 1850, Carr began his ambitious venture. He partnered with ice harvesters in the Sierra Nevada mountains, where the high elevation and cold winters produced an abundance of natural ice. The process of harvesting ice was labor-intensive. Workers would cut large blocks of ice from frozen lakes and rivers, then transport them to ice houses insulated with sawdust to prevent melting. But the real challenge lay in transporting the ice from the Sierras to the growing cities of California, particularly to the gold camps and towns where demand was high. Carr devised a system to transport the ice via wagon trains, covering the blocks in sawdust and straw to keep them from melting during the long journey. It was a risky venture. One wrong move, and the ice could melt away before reaching its destination. Despite the odds, Carr's ice deliveries became a success. Miners and townsfolk eagerly paid a premium for the luxury of ice, which allowed them to cool their drinks, preserve food, and even treat injuries. Carr's success not only made him wealthy, but also earned him the nickname Iceman. Before Carr's ice venture, life without ice in California was harsh, especially during the summer months. People had to be resourceful to preserve their food. They used methods like salting, smoking, and drying to extend the shelf life of meat and other perishables. Root cellars, dug deep into the ground, provided a cool place to store vegetables, but these methods were far from perfect. Drinks were often warm, and the concept of a cold beer or iced tea was unimaginable for most. Dairy products spoiled quickly, making it difficult to keep milk or butter fresh. Medical care also suffered without the ability to use ice to reduce fevers or preserve certain medicines. Carr's introduction of ice to California transformed daily life. The simple luxury of a cold drink or fresh produce became more accessible, and people began to see the benefits of ice beyond just cooling off. It became an essential part of food preservation, which was critical in a time before modern refrigeration. The advent of ice in California led to the construction of ice houses in towns and cities, where large blocks of ice were stored and sold to locals. These ice houses became a staple of urban life and helped pave the way for the future development of refrigeration technology. Ice as a status symbol. In the early days, ice was a symbol of wealth and status. Only those who could afford it enjoyed the luxury of ice-cold drinks or preserved food. Wealthy Californians would often host parties showcasing ice sculptures and chilled foods, impressing their guests with the novelty. Health benefits. Ice also played a role in improving public health. Doctors began using ice to reduce fevers, and the ability to store perishable medicines longer meant better medical care for those in need. Economic growth. The ice industry helped spur economic growth in California. As demand for ice grew, so did the need for infrastructure to support it. New jobs were created in ice harvesting and transportation. I want to thank for joining us for another episode of the Death Valley Chronicles. So until next time, this is your host, William Parson.